6 Signs of a Stupid Person, Stoicism. Have you ever wondered if you might be holding yourself back without even realizing it? Or perhaps you've noticed people around you making choices that seem to lead them down a destructive path. In today's video of Stoic in Your Life will explore 6 signs of a stupid person through the lens of modern Stoicism. These are traits that might be sabotaging your growth and happiness, traits that Stoic philosophy warns against. By recognizing these behaviors in yourself or others, you can make powerful changes that will reshape your life for the better. Stoic secrets tell us that wisdom isn't just about knowledge. It's about mastering your emotions, your decisions, and how you react to the world around you. As we dive into these 6 signs, you might feel a bit uncomfortable, but remember, true growth often begins with an honest look at ourselves. Stick around and let's uncover these signs together, so you can start living a life that aligns with the Stoic principles of virtue, wisdom, and inner peace. 6 signs of a foolish person. Number 1. They refuse to listen and learn. A foolish person is easy to recognize. They refuse to listen and learn. They walk through life convinced they already possess all the knowledge they need, shutting themselves off from new ideas, perspectives, and experiences. Instead of engaging in meaningful conversations, they dismiss differing opinions outright, often ridiculing anything that challenges their rigid worldview. Their certainty is a cage, locking them inside their own ignorance. But ask yourself, how can anyone grow if they refuse to question their own understanding? How can they evolve if they reject anything that contradicts what they already believe? The truth is, they hear, but they do not listen. Their minds are trapped in an illusion of certainty, and in doing so, they cripple their own potential. They fear being wrong more than they value the pursuit of truth. They mistake stubbornness for strength and ego for intelligence. But in reality, their refusal to learn makes them weak. True strength comes from the ability to adapt, to recognize mistakes, and to change when necessary. Even the wisest minds throughout history have recognized that learning is a never-ending journey. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers and rulers of Rome, wrote, "If anyone can show me my error, I will gladly change my ways, for truth is my only concern." Think about that. The most powerful man of his time, willing to admit when he was wrong, yet how often do we see ordinary people refuse to acknowledge even the smallest mistakes? This kind of stubbornness is not a sign of wisdom. It is a sign of ignorance. A person who refuses to learn is like a ship without a rudder, drifting aimlessly, unable to correct its course. Their arrogance keeps them stagnant and frustrates those around them. Imagine a student who ignores their teacher's guidance, believing they already know everything, only to fail the exam, or a professional who refuses to update their skills, convinced they've mastered their craft only to find themselves falling behind. The world is constantly evolving, and those who resist learning will inevitably be left behind. The Stoics understood that wisdom is rooted in humility. Socrates famously said, "I know that I know nothing." This was not an admission of ignorance, but an acknowledgement that true wisdom begins with the understanding that there is always more to learn. No matter how much we think we know, there is an infinite amount of knowledge still beyond our grasp. The moment you believe you have nothing left to discover, you have already stopped growing. Learning is not just about acquiring facts. It is about refining our ability to think, reason, and adapt. Modern Stoicism teaches us that the pursuit of knowledge never ends, and it demands a mindset of constant learning and self-reflection. The ability to change your mind, to admit when you are wrong, is not a weakness, it is an incredible strength. Think about the last time you had a disagreement with someone. Were you truly listening, or were you simply waiting for your turn to speak? Were you open to the possibility that you might be wrong, or were you clinging to your viewpoint out of pride? True wisdom is found in those moments of self-awareness, where we allow ourselves to step back and reevaluate our beliefs. It is not about winning arguments or proving others wrong. It is about seeking truth and embracing growth. The person who refuses to learn chooses stagnation over progress, pride over wisdom, and ignorance over enlightenment. But the wise person, the one who embraces humility and seeks knowledge without ego, will always be a step ahead. The question is, are you willing to be that person, or will you let your pride keep you stuck in place? Number 2. They are easily offended. A foolish person is easily offended, allowing their emotions to take control and interpreting every word as a personal attack. Instead of seeing criticism as an opportunity to grow, they react with anger, frustration, or resentment, shutting down the chance for self-improvement. This emotional fragility makes them difficult to engage with, as people around them feel like they must walk on eggshells, carefully choosing their words to avoid unnecessary conflict. But avoiding discomfort does not lead to wisdom. It only reinforces weakness. The wise understand that not every comment is an attack, nor is every disagreement a reason for hostility. Seneca once said, "A man's greatness lies in his ability to endure insults without resentment." This is the essence of emotional strength, the ability to separate one's ego from external opinions and to remain unshaken by the words of others. When you lack this resilience, you see every opposing view as a threat, reacting not with reason but with defensiveness, aggression, or complete avoidance. This kind of impulsivity leads to poor decisions, fractured relationships, and stagnation. Picture an employee who receives constructive feedback from their manager, but reacts with hostility instead of reflection. Rather than using the advice to improve their skills, they feel personally attacked, sulking in bitterness, blaming others, or even quitting out of spite. In doing so, they rob themselves of the chance to grow, repeating the same mistakes in every new opportunity they encounter. This emotional fragility creates a cycle of setbacks, keeping them trapped in their insecurities. Life will always present challenges, and those who cannot control their emotions will find themselves constantly at odds with the world. The ability to accept feedback with grace is a mark of intelligence, while the inability to do so is a sign of immaturity. When you let emotions cloud your judgment, you surrender control over your own peace of mind. Instead of reacting impulsively, the wise take a step back, analyze the situation, and determine whether there is something valuable to learn. Marcus Aurelius advised, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This truth is one of the great Stoic secrets to maintaining inner peace. The world is filled with differing opinions, harsh judgments, and careless remarks. If you allow these to dictate your self-worth, you will always be at the mercy of external validation. But when you cultivate emotional resilience, no insult, criticism, or misunderstanding can shake your confidence. A wise person does not waste energy on meaningless conflicts or let their emotions be manipulated by others. Instead, they listen, evaluate, and decide whether a comment holds any truth, discarding what is useless and learning from what is valuable. Growth comes from discomfort, and the moment you stop taking everything personally, you free yourself from the unnecessary burdens of anger and insecurity. The ability to remain calm in the face of adversity is what separates the strong from the weak. A person ruled by emotion will always be a prisoner to the opinions of others, but a person who masters their emotions is truly free. We'd love to hear your thoughts. If you believe in the power of emotional strength and handling criticism with grace, comment below with, "I rise above the noise." Your input helps us build a community focused on growth, resilience, and the wisdom to turn challenges into opportunities. Let's continue learning and evolving together. Number 3. They chase short-term pleasure. There's a dangerous illusion many fall into, the belief that pleasure equals happiness. But chasing short-term pleasure without regard for the long-term consequences is the mark of a foolish person. They prioritize indulgence over discipline, seeking instant gratification at the cost of their future well-being. Whether it's excessive spending, compulsive entertainment, or unhealthy habits, they sacrifice stability and meaning for fleeting moments of enjoyment. The Stoic philosopher Seneca put it plainly, "The fool's life is empty of gratitude and full of fears. Its course lies wholly toward the future." What does this mean for you? It means that foolish people live in constant pursuit of the next thrill, be it material possessions, fleeting relationships, or momentary highs, without ever finding true contentment. They believe happiness lies somewhere ahead, always just out of reach yet never within grasp. They fear discomfort and responsibility, choosing easy pleasures over the hard-earned rewards of discipline. But true fulfillment doesn't come from excess, it comes from self-mastery. Take a modern example. Someone who spends their nights partying, spending recklessly, and avoiding responsibility. At first, it seems like they're living a great life. Drinks, flowing, laughter filling the air, no worries about tomorrow. But fast forward a few years and they're left with financial struggles, deteriorating health, and broken relationships. The constant chase for pleasure has robbed them of stability. The wise person, on the other hand, understands that real joy isn't found in indulgence, but in building something meaningful, developing skills, cultivating relationships, and living with purpose. We suffer more often in imagination than in reality, Seneca also reminds us. The fear of missing out drives many into this cycle, but in truth there's nothing to miss when you're grounded in what truly matters. Modern Stoicism teaches us that pleasure without purpose is a trap. It deceives you into thinking you're living fully when in reality, you're escaping. Think about social media today. Endless scrolling, chasing likes, consuming entertainment instead of creating something valuable. It's the same principle. A foolish person is enslaved to their impulses, while a wise person controls them. This doesn't mean you should reject pleasure altogether. Stoicism isn't about suffering for its own sake. It's about knowing when to say no, when to delay gratification, and when to choose long-term growth over a temporary high. A strong mind recognizes that discipline is not restriction, but freedom. The freedom to live life on your own terms instead of being ruled by impulse. Look around. How many people live paycheck to paycheck because they can't resist spending? How many struggle with their health because they choose comfort over discipline? The consequences of foolish choices accumulate slowly, like water dripping on stone, until one day they wake up trapped in a life they never intended. The Stoics believed that self-control is the key to a good life. Epictetus said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." If you can't say no to distractions, indulgences, and fleeting desires, you are not in control of your own life. And if you're not in control, someone or something else is. So ask yourself, are you choosing momentary pleasure at the expense of your future? Do your actions align with the person you want to become? Or are you constantly seeking the next high, the next distraction? Modern Stoicism teaches that the path to fulfillment is through wisdom, discipline, and self-awareness. Pleasure is not the enemy, but when it rules you, it turns into a prison. The choice is yours. Do you control your desires or do they control you? Number 4. They blame others for their problems. A foolish person has one defining trait. They refuse to take responsibility for their own life. When things go wrong, they immediately look for someone or something to blame. Parents, teachers, employers, the government, even bad luck itself. They live in a world where everything is someone else's fault, and because of this, they never grow. They never stop to ask, what could I have done differently? Instead, they tell themselves comforting lies that absolve them of responsibility. But here's the truth. Every time you blame others for your circumstances, you hand over control of your life. You surrender your power to change, to improve, and to create a better future. And the longer you hold on to this mindset, the more trapped you become in a cycle of self-pity and stagnation. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once said, "A man is not disturbed by things, but by the view he takes of them." In other words, it's not the events themselves that define your life, but how you choose to interpret and respond to them. A foolish person sees life as something that happens to them, random, unfair, and beyond their influence. A wise person, however, understands that life is something they shape through their choices, actions, and mindset. The difference between these two perspectives is everything. Imagine two people facing the same hardship, financial struggles, career setbacks, or personal failures. One immediately looks for an external cause to blame. The system is rigged, they say. If only I had better parents, more connections, or better luck, things would be different. They let resentment fester and refuse to take any meaningful action to improve their circumstances. Over time, their excuses harden into beliefs and their potential is lost in a sea of self-imposed limitations. Now contrast this with someone who faces the same challenges but chooses a different path. Instead of complaining, they take action. If they lack skills, they learn. If they make mistakes, they analyze them, adjust, and try again. If they fail, they see it as a lesson rather than an excuse to quit. They don't dwell on what's unfair because they understand that fairness is irrelevant. What matters is what they do with the reality they've been given. This is the essence of Stoic secrets, understanding that while we don't control everything that happens to us, we do control how we respond. The foolish remain stuck in resentment, while the wise adapt and move forward. Think about it. When was the last time you blamed someone else for your problems? Have you ever caught yourself thinking that life is unfair while doing nothing to change your situation? Recognizing this tendency is the first step toward breaking free. Taking responsibility isn't about guilt or self-punishment. It's about reclaiming your power. When you stop blaming others, you start seeing opportunities. You start realizing that you have more control than you ever thought possible. And most importantly, you start living instead of just reacting. Because the moment you take ownership of your life, the world opens up to you in ways you never imagined. Number 5. They talk more than they think. A foolish person is easy to recognize. They talk more than they think. They love the sound of their own voice, dominating conversations, interrupting others, and offering opinions on topics they barely understand. They believe that talking more makes them appear knowledgeable, as if filling the air with words somehow increases their wisdom. But in reality, it does the opposite. It exposes their ignorance. Instead of engaging in meaningful dialogue, they focus on being heard, often ignoring the insights of those around them. Have you ever met someone like this? Someone who speaks with such confidence yet says nothing of real substance? It's frustrating, isn't it? Because deep down, we all know that true wisdom isn't about how much you say, but about the depth of what you say. Marcus Aurelius, one of the greatest Stoic philosophers, once wrote, "Better to trip with the feet than the tongue." A physical stumble may cause a moment of embarrassment, but careless words can leave lasting scars on relationships, reputations, and even one's own self-respect. Foolish people fail to recognize this. They speak without thinking, rarely reflecting on how their words affect those around them. They spread misinformation, make thoughtless remarks, and often offend without even realizing it. Think about someone who constantly interrupts meetings, offering loud but baseless opinions. They believe they sound impressive, but in reality, their colleagues see them as disruptive and uninformed. Over time, this behavior damages their reputation, making them appear arrogant and untrustworthy. People begin to tune them out, dismissing their words before they even speak. Contrast this with a wise person, someone who listens carefully, speaks with intention, and ensures their words carry value. They understand that silence is not something to be feared, but something to be respected. There is power in restraint, in knowing when to speak and when to simply absorb the knowledge around you. Have you ever noticed that the most intelligent people often speak the least? It's because they understand that words once spoken cannot be taken back. Modern Stoicism teaches us the importance of self-control, especially when it comes to speech. In today's world, where social media and instant communication make it easy to speak without thinking, this lesson is more relevant than ever. How often do we see people ruin their careers, relationships, or reputations because they spoke too soon, too harshly, or too ignorantly? The wise person knows that words have weight. They ask themselves before speaking, is this true? Is this necessary? Is this helpful? If the answer is no, they choose silence. This isn't weakness, it's discipline. In a world filled with noise, restraint is a rare and valuable strength. Socrates, known for his method of questioning rather than asserting, once said, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." A foolish person, on the other hand, believes they know everything and makes sure everyone hears about it. But let me ask you, when was the last time you truly listened? Not just waited for your turn to speak, but truly absorbed what someone else was saying? When was the last time you reflected before offering an opinion? If you find yourself talking more than you think, perhaps it's time to pause and ask yourself whether your words are adding value or just filling silence. Modern Stoicism reminds us that wisdom isn't about being the loudest in the room. It's about knowing when to speak, when to listen, and when to remain silent. So, are you speaking with purpose, or are you just making noise? Number 6, they fear change. A foolish person fears change, viewing it as a threat rather than an opportunity. They become trapped in their comfort zones, clinging to outdated beliefs, refusing to embrace new ideas, and resisting anything that challenges their familiar routine. This fear of the unknown keeps them stagnant, preventing them from growing both personally and professionally. Instead of accepting the natural flow of life, they resist it, sticking to what they know even when it no longer serves them. They avoid challenges that could help them evolve and learn, and they reject innovations that could enhance their lives. But change is inevitable, and in a world that's constantly evolving, those who resist it will always find themselves struggling. The Stoic philosopher Epictetus once wisely said, "You can't control the pieces you're given, but you can control how you play them." What he means is that while we can't always control the circumstances of our lives, we do have the power to choose how we respond and adapt. Wise individuals understand that this adaptability is not a weakness but a source of strength. Yet foolish people, instead of embracing this truth, choose to stay rooted in old habits, afraid of stepping into the unknown. They avoid learning new skills and ignore opportunities that demand growth, perpetuating their own limitations. Take, for example, an employee who refuses to learn new technology at work. When given the chance to improve, they dismiss it, reminiscing about the good old days when things seemed simpler. Rather than adapting and enhancing their skill set, they hold on to outdated methods until they become obsolete. Eventually, they may find themselves out of a job, replaced by someone more willing to evolve. But the loss here is deeper than just the job. It's a loss of confidence, a blow to their sense of purpose, and a struggle to keep up with the world. This fear of change extends beyond technology and careers. It impacts all areas of life. Those who resist growth in relationships, knowledge, and perspectives will inevitably be left behind, unable to adjust to a reality that moves forward without them. As Seneca wisely put it, "Every new beginning comes from some other beginnings," and life is a series of transformations, and to fear change is to fear the very essence of life itself. By resisting change, these individuals trap themselves in a cycle of frustration and irrelevance, unable to progress or adapt to new circumstances. But you don't have to be one of them. The world will continue to change, whether you accept it or not. The key is to take control of how you respond. Instead of resisting the inevitable, you can choose to flow with it, using the forces of change to your advantage. Adaptability is not only a sign of intelligence but of wisdom. The most successful people aren't necessarily the smartest or the strongest. They are the ones who are willing to evolve. One of the greatest Stoic secrets to living a fulfilled life is the acceptance that nothing stays the same. By recognizing this truth, you can use it to grow and thrive. When you embrace change, you open yourself up to new opportunities and possibilities. Life rewards those who are flexible, who are willing to step into the unknown with courage, and who view challenges as chances to evolve. The foolish stay behind, stubbornly clinging to what no longer serves them, while the wise move forward, shaping their future with every decision they make. Change is not something to fear, it is something to welcome, for it is the key to growth, success, and fulfillment. From the signs of a foolish person, we can see that they often create barriers to their own personal growth. These individuals are easily offended, seek short-term pleasure, and blame others rather than taking responsibility for their own lives. They are unwilling to listen, learn, or embrace change. Recognizing these traits is essential to avoid falling into these negative habits and living in ignorance. So how can we avoid foolishness and live more wisely? Let's explore that in the next section. How to avoid foolishness and live wisely. Only when we become aware of the signs of foolishness can we begin to shift our mindset toward living more wisely and consciously. In this section, we'll outline specific steps to help you avoid negative habits and pursue a life of greater wisdom. Don't miss these essential tips. They'll shape your life and determine how you face every challenge ahead. Number 1. Always be willing to learn. The foundation of wisdom is the recognition that learning never ends. The foolish believe they have all the answers, while the wise understand that knowledge is a lifelong journey. The most successful individuals, whether in philosophy, business, or any field, are those who constantly seek to expand their understanding, question their assumptions, and embrace the discomfort of growth. Socrates, the father of philosophy, famously declared, "The only true wisdom is in knowing you know nothing." This humility is the difference between stagnation and progress. When you acknowledge that there is always more to learn, you remain open to new ideas, willing to challenge your beliefs and unafraid of being wrong. A foolish person, on the other hand, resists change, avoids criticism, and surrounds themselves with people who only reinforce their existing opinions. They confuse confidence with competence, assuming that certainty equates to intelligence. But the world is ever changing, and those who refuse to adapt will be left behind. Think about the most influential figures throughout history: scientists, entrepreneurs, artists, and philosophers. What do they have in common? A relentless pursuit of knowledge. They read, listen, ask questions, and never assume they have mastered everything. The same applies in everyday life. If you want to improve, whether in your career, relationships, or personal development, you must cultivate curiosity. It means reading books that challenge your worldview, engaging with people who think differently, and being willing to reconsider long-held beliefs. The moment you assume you've reached the peak of knowledge is the moment you start declining. As Marcus Aurelius said, "If anyone can refute me, show me I'm making a mistake or looking at things from the wrong perspective, I'll gladly change. It's the truth I'm after, and the truth never harmed anyone." This mindset is at the heart of modern Stoicism, the understanding that intellectual humility leads to growth, while arrogance leads to ignorance. In today's world, where misinformation spreads rapidly and opinions often masquerade as facts, the ability to discern Truth from falsehood is more valuable than ever. A foolish person blindly accepts information that aligns with their biases, while a wise person questions, researches, and considers multiple perspectives. In an age of social media where echo chambers reinforce existing beliefs, it is easy to fall into the trap of thinking you already know everything you need to know. But the Stoics remind us that wisdom is not about accumulating knowledge. It is about refining our judgment. A true learner does not fear being proven wrong. They welcome it, knowing that every correction is a step toward greater understanding. Ask yourself, do you resist new ideas or do you seek them out? Do you dismiss opposing viewpoints or do you engage with them? Growth requires effort. It requires admitting that you don't have all the answers and that learning is not a destination, but a continuous journey. Modern Stoicism teaches that the mind, like a blade, must be sharpened constantly through challenge and reflection. Epictetus once said, "It is impossible for a man to learn what he thinks he already knows." The choice is yours. Will you be the fool who believes they have it all figured out, or the wise person who remains a student of life? Number 2. Control your emotions. One of the most vital skills that wise people develop is emotional control. It's natural to feel anger, fear, or frustration when things don't go our way. However, many people let their emotions control their actions, which leads to impulsive decisions, conflict, and stress. A foolish person reacts emotionally, allowing these feelings to dictate their behavior and often making situations worse. Imagine driving a car where the brakes are broken and the accelerator is stuck. You're at the mercy of the road, out of control. That's what happens when emotions take charge of your actions. On the flip side, those who practice Stoic secrets understand the importance of controlling their emotions. Stoicism teaches us that while we can't control external events, we can always control how we respond to them. As Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." A wise person doesn't let external events disturb their peace of mind. When something frustrating happens, they take a step back, breathe, and choose how to respond thoughtfully instead of reacting impulsively. Think about a time when you were overwhelmed by an emotion and acted out of anger or fear. Did you later regret your words or actions? Now imagine if you had paused, taken a deep breath, and carefully considered your response. By controlling your emotions, you create space for better decision-making. Instead of reacting out of frustration or fear, you respond with clarity and logic. Let me tell you about my friend Steve, an entrepreneur who once faced a huge setback. After weeks of negotiating a deal with a client, the deal fell through at the last minute. Steve was furious and wanted to confront the client right away. But instead he took a walk, cleared his mind, and decided to send a calm, professional email expressing his disappointment while keeping the door open for future opportunities. That decision not only preserved his relationship with the client but also led to a better proposal later on. This is a perfect example of how emotional control can lead to better outcomes. So how can you apply emotional control in your own life? Start by recognizing when you're emotionally charged. Pay attention to your triggers. Whether it's a comment from someone, a setback, or a stressful situation, and don't react immediately. Pause, take a deep breath. Ask yourself, what is the best response I can give right now? This simple habit can make a huge difference in your relationships and your ability to handle life's challenges. When you master emotional control, you'll notice how it enhances your decision-making, improves your relationships, and brings you greater peace of mind. It's not about suppressing your emotions, but about choosing how to engage with them. By practicing this consistently, you'll find yourself becoming more calm, clear-headed, and in control, no matter what life throws your way. So, how will you take control of your emotions today? What situation can you approach with more composure and clarity instead of letting your emotions take over? Emotional control is one of the key Stoic secrets to living a more fulfilling, peaceful life. Number 3. Prioritize discipline over pleasure. A foolish person is easily recognizable. They prioritize short-term pleasure over long-term discipline. They chase instant gratification, giving in to momentary desires and bad habits, believing that the temporary comfort they experience will somehow make them happy. But here's the thing. True fulfillment doesn't come from indulging in fleeting pleasures. It comes from hard work, patience, and the strength to resist temptation. If you look at your own life, how often have you chosen comfort over discipline only to regret it later? We've all been there, haven't we? Whether it's skipping a workout, procrastinating on a project, or giving in to distractions, it feels good in the moment, but eventually, it leads to frustration and disappointment. This is exactly what separates those who achieve greatness from those who stay stuck. Think about it. If you want to achieve your goals, whether in your career, personal life, or health, you have to be willing to put in the work. It's not always easy, but it's always worth it. Modern Stoicism teaches us that the path to success requires self-control and delayed gratification. The Stoic philosophers were masters of discipline, understanding that true peace and success are built on the foundation of self-control. Marcus Aurelius, one of the most powerful men in history, constantly reminded himself that his happiness was not tied to fleeting pleasures, but to how he responded to challenges and how he used his time. He once wrote, "The happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts." And if you think about it, the quality of your thoughts is often shaped by the actions you take, whether or not you choose discipline over ease. Those who prioritize immediate pleasure may find temporary satisfaction, but they are ultimately sacrificing their future happiness. Have you ever seen someone give up a long-term goal because they couldn't resist the allure of a temporary fix? Maybe it's the person who skips studying for an exam to binge-watch a series, or the one who spends all their money on impulse buys instead of saving for something meaningful. In the end, they end up frustrated, wishing they had stayed focused. So when was the last time you consciously chose discipline over pleasure? The truth is, those who can delay gratification, the ones who are willing to put in the hard work and make sacrifices today, will always outpace those who are constantly chasing the next quick fix. It's not about being perfect or never enjoying life's pleasures, but about recognizing that the easy route rarely leads to lasting fulfillment. As the Stoics believed, the key to true happiness lies in our ability to control our desires and our ability to act in accordance with our values. In the grand scheme of things, the pleasure we seek today is often a distraction from the success we could be achieving tomorrow. So I ask you, are you choosing to focus on what truly matters? Or are you letting distractions control you? You've just taken a big step on the path to mastering yourself. Leave a comment saying, "I choose discipline over pleasure," to let us know you're applying this Stoic principle in your life. Keep following along. Your journey of growth is ongoing, and with persistence, success is sure to follow. Number 4. Take responsibility for your life. Taking responsibility for your life is one of the most empowering choices you can make. It's not about controlling every event or circumstance, but owning how you respond to them. Wise individuals understand that while life may be unpredictable, they alone have the power to shape their reactions. Foolish people, however, often fall into the trap of blaming external forces, society, upbringing, bad luck, or anything outside of themselves, for their misfortunes. This victim mentality keeps them stuck, preventing growth. By refusing to take responsibility, you surrender your power to the very forces you blame. Instead of taking charge of your future, you let circumstances control you, which leads to a sense of powerlessness. Stoicism offers valuable insight here. As Epictetus wisely said, "We cannot choose our external circumstances, but we can always choose how we respond to them." This Stoic secret teaches that by focusing on what you can control and letting go of what you can't, you unlock the freedom to act with purpose. When you take responsibility for your actions, choices, and outcomes, you shift from a passive to an active mindset. No longer will you make excuses or blame the world for your failures. Instead, you'll start asking yourself the crucial question, what can I do to change this situation? This shift fosters resilience, a key trait of successful individuals. Life presents challenges, and everyone faces setbacks. But the difference between those who succeed and those who remain stuck is the ability to take ownership of their circumstances and make necessary adjustments. For example, imagine two people fired from their jobs. One blames the company, the manager, and the economy, spending months complaining and waiting for change. The other takes responsibility, analyzes their weaknesses, and works to improve their skills. They may seek training or take on new projects, eventually landing a better opportunity. The difference is clear. One used the setback to grow, while the other remained trapped in negativity. Taking responsibility doesn't mean blaming yourself for everything. Life is unpredictable, and some things are beyond your control. However, you do have control over how you respond. By focusing on what you can change, your actions, mindset, and decisions, you take charge of your future. This is one of the greatest Stoic secrets, accepting that while you can't control every aspect of life, you can always adapt, learn, and improve. By stopping the blame game, you start taking proactive steps toward change, whether it's enhancing your skills, building resilience, or adjusting your perspective. Taking responsibility is the moment you reclaim your power. In today's fast-paced world, this mindset is crucial. It's easy to blame external factors when things go wrong. But overcoming obstacles requires shifting your focus from problems to solutions. Taking responsibility for your life is not about perfection, it's about progress. It's about recognizing your ability to make meaningful change and refusing to be a passive observer. When you own your actions and outcomes, you're not merely surviving, you're thriving. This is the essence of Stoic wisdom, and by adopting it, you'll unlock the power to shape your path regardless of what life throws your way. Number 5. Think before you speak. A wise person understands the power of words. Words can build bridges or tear them down, inspire others or lead them astray, create opportunities or slam doors shut. However, the foolish often speak without considering the impact of their words. They blurt out opinions, interrupt conversations, or speak on topics they know little about, only to regret their comments later. This reckless approach not only makes them appear inconsiderate, but also damages their credibility and relationships. As Marcus Aurelius wisely put it, better to trip with the feet than the tongue. While a physical misstep might lead to temporary embarrassment, careless words can cause lasting harm. Think about it. Words can cut deeper than any blade. A thoughtless remark can ruin friendships, derail careers, and create lifelong regrets. This is why it's so important to think before you speak. Pausing to reflect on your words before sharing them isn't just a sign of wisdom. It's a practice that can save you from many avoidable mistakes. Before speaking, ask yourself, is what I'm about to say necessary? Does it add value to the conversation? Is it respectful and thoughtful? If the answer is no, silence is often the better choice. In today's world, where social media amplifies every word, we see the consequences of reckless speech more than ever. Just as the Stoics advocated for self-discipline and reflection, modern Stoicism emphasizes the importance of mindful communication. Take, for example, a person in a meeting who constantly interrupts others with irrelevant points, trying to assert their opinion on topics they barely understand. They may think they're sounding intelligent, but in reality, they only come across as arrogant and dismissive. Over time, people stop respecting them, not because of their lack of knowledge, but because of their failure to listen and consider others. Now consider the person who takes a moment to pause, actively listens and speaks only when they have something valuable to contribute. This individual not only gains the respect of their peers, but also becomes a trusted voice in the room. They recognize that speaking less but with more thoughtfulness often leads to deeper connections and greater influence. In modern life, we've all encountered someone who dominates conversations, cutting others off or flooding discussions with unsubstantiated opinions. It's easy to get caught up in the desire to be heard, to impress others, or to validate our own views. But the reality is, the more we talk without thinking, the less others value our words. Wisdom comes from understanding that we don't always have to speak. In fact, listening often speaks louder than words. When we speak without thinking, we risk misunderstandings, conflicts, and alienation. But by pausing before responding, we not only choose our words more wisely, but also avoid unnecessary friction. You have the power to steer your conversations toward clarity, respect, and understanding. The key is to remember that every word is an opportunity, and just as a wise person uses words to elevate, a foolish person uses them to diminish. As you go through your day, whether at work, with friends, or on social media, consider how your words shape the world around you. Do you speak impulsively, or do you take the time to reflect on your message? Practicing the art of mindful speech doesn't mean you remain silent, but rather that you speak with intention, adding value and fostering positive connections. In the end, the ability to think before speaking is one of the greatest tools of wisdom. By mastering this skill, you cultivate respect, avoid unnecessary conflict, and create opportunities for meaningful dialogue. As Epictetus wisely said, "We have 2 ears and 1 mouth, so we should listen more than we speak." This is the essence of modern Stoicism, mastering ourselves through awareness, reflection, and self-control, even in how we communicate with others. If you've made it this far in the video, I encourage you to leave a comment with "wisdom in silence" below. This is a great way to show that you're embracing the deeper teachings of Stoicism and are reflecting on the importance of thoughtful speech. Take a moment to think about how often we speak without truly considering the value of our words. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Number 6. Accept change as part of life. One of the most important lessons Stoicism teaches us is to embrace change. Life is always evolving, and nothing stays the same. Yet many resist this natural flow, clinging to outdated beliefs, routines, and the comfort of what's familiar. This fear of the unknown can trap us in mediocrity, making us hesitant to step into new growth. Have you ever found yourself resisting something new because you feared what might happen? Maybe it was a new opportunity, relationship, or way of thinking. How did that turn out? Were you stuck in the same place, wishing for change but too afraid to make the leap? Fighting change only leads to frustration, while embracing it opens up new possibilities. A wise person knows that resisting change is futile. Instead of running from it, they see every challenge as an opportunity to grow and adapt. Take Mark, for example, a business owner I know. Mark had been running a successful small business for years, but he resisted adopting new technology. He stuck to the old ways and thought it would keep him ahead. But as time went on, his competitors who embraced innovation began to surpass him. They adopted new tools and improved their strategies, while Mark's refusal to change caused his business to decline. The difference was in their mindsets. His competitors understood the power of adapting while Mark didn't. This is where Stoic secrets come into play. To stay ahead in life, you need a flexible mindset. Every change, even if uncomfortable, brings growth. Change is not your enemy. It's a chance to learn and evolve. Think about your own life. How many times have you held on to something that no longer served you, just because it was familiar? Whether it was a job, relationship, or belief, when you finally let go, didn't something better come into your life? Resisting change keeps you stuck. The wise person understands that change signals growth, and by embracing it, they open themselves to new opportunities. Instead of seeing challenges as obstacles, they view them as chances to learn, adapt, and thrive. So, ask yourself, how are you resisting change in your life right now? What new experiences or skills are you avoiding because of fear? How might embracing change bring you closer to the person you want to become? The Stoic secrets aren't just about enduring hardship. They're about actively shaping your destiny. When you adopt a mindset that welcomes change, you become more adaptable, resilient, and successful. Change doesn't need to be feared. It's something to be embraced. When you stop resisting it, you start moving forward and creating the life you want. Remember, life is constantly moving forward, and you should be too. Number 7. Live simply and focus on real values. There's something about the pursuit of material wealth, social validation, and external approval that can easily mislead anyone, don't you think? Too many people spend their lives chasing after things they believe will make them happy: money, status, luxury, only to wake up one day and realize they're still empty inside. It's a tough truth to swallow, but here's the thing. These outward markers of success don't lead to fulfillment. It's so easy to fall into the trap of comparing ourselves to others, constantly measuring our worth by how much we have or how many people admire us. But I ask you, does that really bring you lasting happiness? Does it ever feel like you're just running on a treadmill chasing something you can never quite catch? It's one of the easiest traps to fall into, and believe me, I've seen it countless times. But the truth is, these things, money, fame, material wealth, they're fleeting, they come and go. And when they're gone, so is your sense of purpose unless you've built your life on something more solid. Modern Stoicism teaches us that true happiness and contentment don't come from what we have, but from who we are and the values we live by. Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic emperor, once said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." Think about that for a moment. He's not saying that wealth is inherently bad. He's reminding us that true wealth lies in simplicity, in knowing what really matters, and in understanding that happiness doesn't depend on accumulating things. In contrast, foolish people often find themselves stuck in the constant pursuit of more. They might buy the latest car or wear the most expensive clothes, but deep down, they still feel like something is missing. It's almost like putting a bandage over a wound that needs much more than that. Meanwhile, the wise person chooses a different path, a path rooted in the understanding that true fulfillment comes from within. They focus on their character, their relationships, their integrity. They nurture the things that matter, the people they love, their sense of purpose, and their personal growth. They're not constantly comparing themselves to others. Instead, they find joy in the simple things, like a walk in nature, a good conversation, or helping others. Which one of these two do you think is truly happy? The person constantly chasing after status, or the one who finds contentment in meaningful connections and self-improvement? It's not that ambition is bad. In fact, the Stoics believed in striving for excellence. But it's about understanding that real success doesn't come from possessions or recognition. It comes from the life we live, the values we embody, and the relationships we build. So, think about your own life for a moment. Are you focusing on what truly matters? Are you prioritizing the right things, or are you letting yourself be distracted by the superficial? If you're constantly chasing external validation or comparing yourself to others, it might be time to stop and reassess. Real wisdom comes from living simply, from embracing the values that truly bring happiness, character, relationships, and personal growth. If you can learn to appreciate the simple joys in life, the things that don't require a price tag, you'll find that contentment is never far behind. So what are you chasing? The empty promises of material wealth, or the lasting satisfaction that comes from living a life grounded in what truly matters? As you reflect on the pursuit of true fulfillment, think about your own life for a moment. Are you getting caught up in the race for material wealth? Or are you focusing on what truly brings you happiness and peace? If you're ready to embrace the values that lead to lasting contentment, share your commitment with our community. Comment, "I choose simplicity," to show that you're choosing the path of personal growth, meaningful connections, and a life built on real values. Let's take this journey together and remind ourselves that true wealth lies not in what we have, but in who we are. Number 8. Apply Stoic philosophy to daily life. Applying Stoic philosophy to your daily life can be one of the most transformative actions you take. Stoicism is not just abstract theory, it's a practical guide to living wisely with clarity and resilience. The core Stoic truth is simple yet profound. While you can't control everything, you always control how you respond. By embracing this mindset, you take charge of your emotions, thoughts, and actions, allowing you to navigate challenges more gracefully. You'll start to realize that your true power doesn't lie in controlling external circumstances, but in mastering your inner responses. Marcus Aurelius, the great Stoic philosopher, once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength." This insight is vital. It's not the events in your life that define you, it's your reactions to them. Life will often be unpredictable, and things will go wrong. But the freedom lies in realizing that your thoughts and reactions are within your control. Instead of being swept away by frustration, anger, or stress, you learn to remain steady. When you stop letting external events dictate your mood, you become more resilient and grounded. A simple example is getting stuck in traffic. A foolish person may let the situation ruin their day, honking, cursing, and getting angry, which only builds negative emotions that last far beyond the incident. On the other hand, a person practicing Stoicism would accept that the situation is out of their control. Instead of resisting, they would use the time productively, perhaps reflecting on a personal issue, listening to an audiobook, or practicing mindfulness. While both individuals are facing the same traffic jam, their reactions shape whether the experience is stressful or an opportunity to stay calm. The key to applying Stoic philosophy is asking yourself, is this within my control? By doing so, you remind yourself of a powerful Stoic secret. You can't change external events, but you can control your response. Over time, this way of thinking fosters resilience. You stop reacting emotionally to every situation and begin responding with clarity and reason. It doesn't mean ignoring your feelings, but understanding that while emotions are natural, they don't have to dictate your actions. You decide how you respond to life's unpredictable moments. As you practice this daily, you will notice a shift. You start to approach challenges with calmness, focusing on what you can change: your mindset, your decisions, and your actions. The more you practice, the stronger and more resilient you become. Instead of trying to control every situation, you accept the things outside your control and focus on your internal response. With each passing day, you develop a mind that is unaffected by the chaos around you, allowing you to remain steady even in the face of adversity. Living by Stoic principles requires ongoing effort, but as you integrate them into your life, you'll find that you start to approach life differently. It's less about avoiding discomfort and more about learning how to handle it with wisdom. You stop wasting energy on things you can't control and instead focus on making decisions aligned with your values. Each challenge becomes an opportunity to grow, rather than an obstacle to avoid. These are the Stoic secrets that guide you toward a more peaceful and purposeful life. In a world filled with stress and uncertainty, the Stoic approach is more valuable than ever. It's easy to feel overwhelmed when things are beyond your control, but the true power lies in your ability to adapt and choose how you respond. The next time you face a challenge, remember that you have the power to decide how to react. By practicing Stoicism daily, you cultivate resilience, wisdom, and peace. allowing you to navigate life's ups and downs with grace. In conclusion, we've explored the 6 signs of a foolish person: refusing to learn, being easily offended, chasing short-term pleasure, blaming others, talking too much, and fearing change. These behaviors are barriers to personal growth, creating lives filled with frustration and missed opportunities. But the good news is that Stoic philosophy offers us a way out. By applying the timeless lessons of modern Stoicism, self-awareness, self-discipline, and resilience, you can break free from these destructive patterns and begin a path toward wisdom and fulfillment. Now, I encourage you to reflect on these Stoic secrets and ask yourself, which of these signs are holding you back, and how can you apply the Stoic principles to overcome them? If this video resonated with you, share it with someone who could benefit from these insights. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and continue your journey toward a life of purpose and growth with Stoic in your life.